Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Gulfstream today. Ron Nicoletti along with Ashley Mayu. It is a really fantastic day here in South Florida. You can see those blue skies with the white clouds looking very nice, and 12 race cards, so lots to get to this afternoon. This morning, I should say, when we kick off the early show. Ashley, you up there?
I'm up here. I think you're a little confused after that 2 p.m. post yesterday. We started in the afternoon, but now starting in the morning, just almost 11:30 here. You mentioned 12 races. Looking forward to the stakes race, too, the musical romance later on today.
Yeah, I want to get one of those Apple Watches so I know what time the post time is. It seems to be different every single day, and I got to first step, I got to think about it. But 12-20 this afternoon, and the big news, of course, a $500,000 jackpot guarantee in the Rainbow Six. But let's check out what happened in the Stronach 5 yesterday. I think it was like a little over $1,200, almost $1,300. And let's look again. The only out big horse was Golden Gate Fields at $15.80. And you mentioned this, if those horse, tracks like Pimlico and Golden Gates pay a little higher than the morning line horses, we get a nice comeback.
Yeah, it definitely helps. Golden Gate helped. You mentioned Pimlico, too, and they had some carryovers yesterday, so I know they were taking a lot of money in their pools. But when you look at the races that were here from Gulfstream Park, we mentioned race 8, which was Leg D, was a pretty wide-open event, but we were both on the same page in Leg E. It looked like the favorite was going to win, and boy, did the favorite really win that one.
Yeah, he was much the best and just drew off in the stretch. So that $1,297. I hope you had it if you played. And, of course, the industry low, 12% takeout. So that takes care of all the early morning business today. And now we're going to go and check out today's card. And we're going to start it off with a 5-furlong turf event. These are maiden claimers, fillies and mares, 3 and up, $16,000. And Ashley put together an early pick 5 ticket. Let me guess, $36?
Yes. 36 bucks. I went too deep in here. It's between two horses, the number 4, May I, 9-5 on the morning line, as well as the number 6, a first-time starter out of the Georgina Baxter barn, Captorini. Race 2, I spread today. I went 3 deep in here. This is just a race that not much to go by when you have 2-year-olds, so I always need a couple horses in here. So I went 3 deep. I used the 1, Desert Ruler, who I'm intrigued by the pedigree, the 3, Cajun's Magic, as well as the number 6, Of a Revolution. Race 3, I went 2 deep in there. I used one of the Mark Cassie runners, and then the number 7, Buffalo Max. I spread again in race 4. I go 3 deep in here. It's a maiden $16,000 claimant event going 5.5 on the dirt, so I wanted some coverage there. And to wrap it up, I went 2 deep in race 5. This is another maiden event. This time, I did use the number 4, Fear the Deer, who was heavily favored last time out, but just managed for 3rd. But I thought he might be able to get the job done today in that spot, as well as the number 2, Superposition. So as you mentioned, 36 bucks.
$36, Fast Main Track Firm Turf Course. Now we'll look at this first race. Pretty wide open affair, but I think you have the logical horses in there with the number 4, May I, who's dropping to the 16 level today. Returned from about a 9-month layoff to finish a rallying 3rd against 50 maidens for Wansi Avila. Hector Berrios had a couple of wins on yesterday's card, I believe, and he's been going good for the jockey. So I just thought when this looks like the horse to beat to me, it's a pretty wide open affair. But if you're going to go somewhere, maybe you go with a horse like this.
You mentioned Berrios is doing well, but then the big thing, too, is he does really well when he teams up with Juan Avila. 19% here at Gulfstream Park. I just thought the class drop, second off the layoff, staying at this 5-furlong distance. This horse just made the most sense on top. Made up some ground late last time out, and I thought the top 2 in there were very playable and usable. So this is a huge slash in that claiming price. So I went with the favorite as well.
Yeah, and Captorini for all the reasons, just Georgina Baxter. This is the daughter of Uncaptured debut, and she does pretty good with a limited amount of first-time starters. This is her game, 5 furlongs on the turf. So, I was tempted. I almost flip-flopped these two just because of the success she has with first-time starters on the turf.
Yeah, and she's had a great meet. And the other interesting thing is when you see a filly like this, Georgina does very well placing her horses to debut at the maiden claiming level, 42% from 12 runners. So the numbers are certainly there. I think looking at some others in here, you can always make that case of what have you done for me lately. You don't know with this one, but the workouts, I think they're respectable enough. And some of these other horses, they've had their fair share of chances.
Well, let's go to race number 2 this afternoon. As you mentioned during your ticket, this is 2-year-olds maiden special weight, 5 furlongs, 6 in the field. Always a little guesswork in here. And I think you went with the logical horse on top of your ticket, and that is the number 6, Of a Revolution. He's the son of McLean's Music, and a half-brother to Stakes Place horse called Machio, debuting for Safi. You're getting leading trainer, leading jockey. Looks like a good way to go when you're doing some guesswork with these 2-year-olds.
Yeah, when you look at him, I mean, his last workout definitely wasn't eye-catching by any means out of the gate, 52-1 breezing, and that was back here on May 23rd. But for me, it's a connections angle. The pedigree's good enough and has some sharp drills kind of looking at April and early May. So this is the one I went to. You mentioned Zayas, Safi Joseph Jr. They're hard to ignore in these spots.
Well, I went with the number 3 you have in second, Cajun's Muse. Is a Gelder's son of win early sire, Cajun Breeze, debuting for Mike Yates. 4 local workouts showing a preparation for this assignment. I always like horses that have worked over this track here at Gulfstream Park. And Mike Yates, going back 3 years ago, these Cajun Breezes, boy, he gets them to run and run early. So I just was playing the percentages there with Mike Yates, like you say. And Jesus Rios will be in the saddle. And Jesus, a good rider with these 2-year-olds. If you go back through tradition and look, he rides a lot of good 2-year-olds here. I guess they like the way he gets horses out of the gate. I went with Cloud Play in third. He's the son of productive sire Into Mischief, one of the top sires last year, debuting for Timmy Ham with 7 morning workouts showing in preparation for this first start. And look who is the jockey today, and that is Mr. Edgar Prado.
Yeah, we kind of went in a different direction underneath in the third spot. I used the number 1 Desert Ruler, who I hope I can get 8-1 on. I think that'd be a pretty good price. Kind of looking at the mare Lavender Baby. She was an 8-time winner, was able to race on the turf, the dirt, you name it. Pretty nice mare at the end of the day, and the family's pretty nice. This one is a half sibling to some stakes winners as well. So this was a pedigree angle for me. Another pedigree angle, as you mentioned, was the number 3 Cajun's Magic. Just those connections you've already mentioned, the Cajun Breeze angle. I had to use that one as well.
Let's go to race number 3, a mile on the turf. Claim is 3-year-olds or 4-year-olds and up, non-winners of 3 in life. 20 down to $16,000. Scratch the main track only here, number 2 horse. And you went to the inside with the number 1 Proliferate for Mr. Mark Cassie, who's having a really nice campaign here this spring and summer.
I don't often do this. Whenever I'm a woman scorned and I bet a horse and was disappointed, I rarely use them again on top. But for me, I think the class relief is huge with this one, as well as third off the layoff. And it's not just a 2 or 3 month layoff. It was a year layoff. So I think this is where this horse can really step up. He's a 5-year-old. You look at his other 2 starts this year. His numbers have been good, but he's finished 5th in both of them, and he's been even. So I think the big thing I'll need to see from him, and I hope that he has today, is some sort of late turn of foot. He's been lacking that, but in the past we've seen that against much tougher competition. So I use this horse just thinking he can improve today in a lower level.
Well, I figure being I'm Italian, I'm going to go with the 5 on top of my Mr. Dunzel on top of my ticket. Well, what I like about this horse, he used his tactical speed to defeat those 20 claimers. That was 3 starts back. He drops. He disputed the pace again last time out. Finished 4th against those 35 claimers going 8.5 furlongs. I think he's in the first flight playing Catch Me If You Can. So we'll see how this horse runs. Proliferate for all the reasons you mentioned. And I think the horse that you used on your early pick 5, the other one, Buffalo Max, who's going to the Elizabeth Doblesborn, has a shot.
He's still looking for his first local turf win here from 4 starts, but he has those minor placings. I think last time out, you would have wanted a little bit more. It was going a mile and a 16th, was in for the $20,000 tag, but you mentioned joins the Dobles barn, who wins at about 18% off the claim, and they've breezed this one a couple times, and I loved the morning move on May 8th, and it was a while back, but I think Buffalo Max can certainly improve for the new connections.
Well, let's go to race number 4 this afternoon. This one, 5 1/2 furlongs. Maiden claim is 3-year-olds, $16,000. Did have a scratch in here of the number 5 horse. Give me 2 steps, 4-1 on the morning line. You started it off in here with the number 7 horse, and that's the King Achilles, who's going back to the dirt today.
Going back to the dirt, I think the big thing here, too, is joining a new barn. And I wanted to pull up a trainer stat here for Luis Ramirez. I thought this was a little bit of an intriguing angle to look at. This is first off the trainer switch the past 3 years. A very limited number here, but 3 for 9 in terms of wins, 67% in the money, with a nice ROI of 297. And when I factored that in, the barn's been doing okay so far this meet. They have 2 wins from 17 starters. There's an equipment change, blinkers on, and Edwin Gonzalez climbing aboard. I think there's a lot of room for improvement, and the breezes over the dirt here at Gulfstream Park recently, they've been pretty good. So I'm excited to see this one on the dirt. Thought I'd take a stand, especially if I can get 7-2. I'd be happy with that.
Yeah, 7-2, good price. I did go with the horse you have in third on top, and that's Cotton Jim, who's dropping to the 16 level today after dueling early for the early lead last time out, finishing third against those 25 maidens, going this 5.5 furlong distance. Jose Pinchin, Emissy El Jaramillo, certainly a good rider when you got horses that need to be on that in that first flight. On top of my ticket, so we basically have the same super here, just boxed around. You also use the 2 All All Fool's Day for Dennis Ward.
Yeah, looking at All Fool's Day, first start here was just last time out on May 14th. Everything else was over at Tampa on the other coast. And he tired in there. He finished third, beaten by 9 lengths. He really didn't have a perfect trip either. He had to go wide at one point. So I think he had some excuses. He was in for the $20,000 tag. He's at a comparable distance today. But, you look at that effort 2 back, it was pretty strong at Tampa while in for the $16,000 tag. So I thought this was another logical play here, just a little shorter on the morning line.
Let's go to race number 5, a mile and a 16th on the turf. Maiden claim is 3-year-olds and up, $16,000. And if I remember correctly, I think you used Fear the Deer as one of your picks on the ticket, along with Superposition on your early pick 5. But I want to go back and show you that race between another horse that's in it you have further down, and that is Warp Speed Baby, along with Fear the Deer. Warp Speed Baby this day is the number 3 horse, and Fear the Deer is the number 6. And you're just going to see what happens here as they're coming out. Rolling out of the far turn. You're just going to see the horse Warp Speed Baby just has to put on the brakes. Basically, the afternoon is over and just runs okay. After that, and Fear the Deer, of course, after that was disqualified and taken down. So I thought that Warp Speed Baby really had no shot after having a really steady sharply in that race. So I just flip-flopped these two with Warp Speed Baby on top.
Yeah, this is a horse that I actually found to be a little scary that I did use further on my selections than you did based on that replay. I think my concern was 2 starts back going 7.5. I wanted to see more in the stretch run and didn't get it. I think same thing happened last time out, but your replay shows there was kind of reason for that. So I still like this one underneath, but for me, I was between Superposition and, as we just saw, Fear the Deer, who I want to touch upon him first. I mean, he went off at 1-5 last time out in a race that we thought that was pretty low odds on him, and he did make up ground. He was waiting for room throughout, so he did have some excuses. That was going 1 mile and an eighth, so a slight cutback. But I've just watched his last 3 races, and I have to use him underneath. He could win this, and I did use him in that early pick 5, but I still have reservations.
Yeah, he was trying 9 furlongs in those races, so going to try to mile into 16. But Superposition is dropping to this level after returning from about a 3-month layoff. Ran okay, ran an even 4th against those 25 maidens going this mile into 16 distance. You would think there would be improvement today.
Yeah, there's 3 months off, and you kind of see that performance from when he left the races and returned, and it was pretty similar in terms of finish and how much he was beaten by, but he's getting some more class relief today, and I think that's key, and just suck it off the layoff. So I used him on top. I think we might get a decent price on him, and honestly, just looking at the others I mentioned, I have reservations on Fear the Deer, so I think this is the most logical or likely horse, in my opinion, to beat him.
Let's go to race number 6 this afternoon. 6 furlongs claimers, 3 and up, non-winners of 2 in life, $20,000 down to $16,000. And we are in agreement with our top pick in this one with the number 6, Junior Speed or JR Speed, who goes to the Mark Paisley bond after the claim.
Yeah, very nice race last time out. Just missed by a neck in the end and was forwardly placed. And to be honest, his best running is on the front end. And I think today going 6 furlongs again, this is the spot where he has to go to the front. It was his first race since March. So another one that I think improvement is possible for him. He's also getting blinkers on.
I didn't know what to do with the Ice Beast. I'm going to go back and show you this horse's last race. That's the one horse in here. We actually broke from post 1 in the race last time out. And you're just going to see a slow start. So when I saw this, I said, breaking from the one post again, I really didn't know what to do with this horse. Juan Ciavilla is the trainer. And I just thought, the horse ran okay after that. It was basically eliminated at the start. So I said, this horse maybe with a clean break would run well. But then I noticed that the horse is breaking from the rail again, so I backed off and put this horse in second. Just wanted to show you, has some slow starts. I think if this horse can break sharply from the inside, may have learned something, could be somewhere on your ticket.
Yeah, and he typically, you look at those last 2, he's had to close from off the pace because even 2 starts back, he got bumped early on, and I don't think that's ideal for him. I mean, he's still good enough that he's going to give you a late rally of some sort and get a minor share. So like you, I used him underneath. I didn't think he could win in this spot, but a minor share should be within his reach.
I think I remember Flipping Fish, the name. You like this horse in its debut or something like that. It's hard to forget a name like Flipping Fish. It's a good name for a horse.
Very good name. One on debut at the $20,000 level in pretty much gate-to-wire fashion. The runner-up, First Rule, came back to win next time out, so like seeing that the horse that he beat, just underneath him was able to come back and break the maiden in the next start. And then last time out, it might have been just a bit of an ambitious spot for him. He also didn't break like he did in his debut. He was further back early on, and I'm not sure that's where he wants to be. So I like him in for the $20,000 tag today, so I used him for second.
The number 2, Casalsa, this one from the Peter Walder barn, now in the Peter Walder barn, I should say. Free falls to the 20 level today after facing tougher before the layup. Really had some shaky results in there, nothing you can really hang your hat on. But the barn is pretty solid, over 20% with new additions to the shed row, Lasix. And I like the fact that Edgar Zayas is atop this intriguing possibility. Maybe this horse, Peter figured it out. Certainly not a lot of great races before going on the bench against better competition.
And Edgar doesn't typically ride for Peter Walder. You can see that just 3 starts here at Gulfstream Park in the last year or so. So I did think that was intriguing. You do have the additional Lasix, but I don't know what you do with the last 3 races. They were against much tougher competition, but there's nothing to take away from them. The only other thing I noticed, the drills in the morning, they've been pretty sharp the last 2.
Yeah, and this is Peter's game. He gets these horses to run. So with that said, we'll take a short break. And when we come back, we'll have my Rainbow Six ticket together. And it is races 7 through 12 today.
In the 2 path. Ground ball first inside. Race. A quarter of a mile to go, and he's 6 yards out. It's last of the 12 as they roll into the backstretch.
Welcome back to Gulfstream today on a beautiful Saturday morning, just a little after 11:40 a.m. The main track is fast. The turf course is firm. If you're just joining us, and I wish you were here since the beginning, but if not, I'm going to let you know we have a $500,000 jackpot guarantee. So I went in my backyard, and I dug up one of my coffee cans, and I put my ticket in today at $64.80. Let's get some extra money today because I find this sequence wide open today. So I got some coverage all the way through this afternoon, starting off race number 7, which is a head-scratcher to begin with Henry's World, Graham Malback, and Reagan's Heart. That's a tough race to start this sequence off. 3 deep again in race number 8. Race number 9, just 2 in there. Ogagla, I think it is, and Baby Mo. I thought those were the logical 2 in that spot. Not so subtle in the tent with Freedom Matters and Timmy M. And I really like the chances of Sound Machine today in our stakes race, the musical romance. But I kept going back to Miss Mashak. Didn't want to get beat by that horse. Got my long shot in the last race, the number 6 horse, and that is Keitani, 12-1 for Bobby DeBona. I think this horse is looking to bounce back, maybe at a price this afternoon.
Looking at your ticket, I think we're good until race 12, and I think I might have looked at tomorrow's races on the card because I don't know what race I was looking at. I think it's a wide open event to wrap up the card, but I agree. I really like Sound Machine as well in the musical romance, and I'm hoping we get 9-2, but I know we won't.
Well, I want to see how you handle this race coming up. I didn't see your selections because this one was a head scratcher for me. Yeah, I can understand using the 4 horse in here. I just didn't know which way to go.
I was torn too. I actually pretty much wrote down about 5 or 6 of the 7 horses in this spot because I think it's going to come a lot down to pace in here. I mean, it is a 5-furlong turf event. They're in for the $16,000 tag. I ultimately went to the number 4 going for gold first off the claim now for Call Pojak just because last time out this horse was able to get to the front with Chantel aboard and it was a pretty quick race compared to some of the other horses that have speed in here. I think going for gold may be the fastest in the race. I like that the connections have decided to keep Chantel aboard today. And for me, I think if this one gets to the front, watch out. A 2-time winner from 4 starts here on the turf.
Yeah, I had a similar thought with the number 6 horse, excuse me, in here with Henry's World, who's going to the Mauricio Fuentes barn after the claim. He went up and he set some pretty solid early fractures when finishing second. Was only beaten ahead against those 12-5 open claimers last time out. Edgar Zayas rationing speed. Did these two horses, the 4 and the 6, look each other in the eye? Maybe set it up for a horse like the number 7 Grand Malbec.
They certainly could, because when you look at them, when they've been kind of pressed early on, they typically don't last in those final jumps to the wire. They can get a minor share, but they kind of surrender under pressure. So you mentioned Grand Malbec, who I used for second. I mean, this is a horse who's finished second in his last 3 starts, but he always tries. He's very consistent, and I think looking at his last couple of races, he's a horse that you're going to want to use here, just as you mentioned, from a trip angle.
Yeah, but you know he just finishes second in 4 consecutive races. It's like it's almost like I don't know. These horses always amaze me that they just don't want to win. But you're getting Hector Berrios, who we mentioned, is having a good couple of days for sure. Armando de la Cerda, an excellent trainer. So I'm not leaving this one off the ticket like you did too. I mean, second, I would not be surprised if this horse won. I had some interest in the number 2 Reagan's Heart, who showed heart and determination when he rallied to defeat Grand Malbec last time out. He was only 7-3-1 last time, so I don't think we're going to get that today. Ernesto Ochoa has Gadiel Martinez going for 2 in a row. I don't know. It's hard to take a horse. I had a horse last week that went up 150-1 and ended up winning his next race. So I figure maybe this can do it too at being 70-3-1 last time out.
Things I wish I could say. The horse was only 73-1, but it was a good performance. Gadiel came on. You did get a little bit of a weight break there, and it was a good performance. I honestly was torn between this runner based on that most recent performance, as well as the number 1 Longblade, who I don't know what you do with him based on his last 2 starts. They've been lackluster, but when you go down the page, 2020 was a really big year for Longblade. He won 4 out of 9, so I went to the horse on the inside, but I think these were 2 long shots that you at least have to look at.
Let's go to race number 8. 5.5 furlongs. Claim is 3 and up. This are $6,250 types in here. And number 5, I'm Kickin' is a choice in here. We'll talk about that horse first. Stepping up to the next logical level after rallying 4 wide to defeat 62,500 up. Those are condition claimers. So as the public choice for Victor Barboza Jr., Edgar Zayas in the saddle. But you, like me, have some interest in the number 3. Ain't Wasting Time, who's back locally today. Before you talk about it, I want to go back and show you that race up at Tampa Bay. This one, we're going to show you the start in here, and that day, the number 4 horse, you're going to see it just stumbles at the start and gets bopped around a little bit between horses, you know, and then was so game in the race. You're going to see when it flips to the stretch run that this horse just totally, you know, gets surrounded on both sides and runs exceptionally well and holds on. And it's Saffie Joseph Jr., so had trouble at the start and was able to shake it off, and as you can see, you know, wins here as 3-1. He was actually dueling with the 2-1 choice in there, Company Store.
It's always interesting to see how the Tampa Bay horses do over here at Gulfstream Park. And when you look at this horse's recent form, he's won 3 out of his last 4. Technically, he was disqualified 3 starts back and placed second. And then you look at his local form, and I see he's 0 for 8 on the main track, which I didn't love in here. But the big thing you mentioned, he's in the barn of Saffie Joseph Jr. The horse seems to be doing quite well over at Tampa. So I think we're going to see a different version of him here. You know, since his most recent effort, he's had some nice drills at Palm Meadows, too. So I used him on top. I kick in. It's 1 of 2 for Victor Barboza Jr. in this spot. I thought it was the better of the 2, and that last win was pretty easy. So for me, I think these are the 2 horses. One of them, I think, will end up in the winner's circle.
Yeah, like I say, a tough race there, but you can go a different couple of ways. Let's go to race number 9 this afternoon, about 7.5 on the turf. Maiden special weight. These are fillies and mares, 3-year-olds and upward. And this is where you have your late pick 4 ticket.
I do. I put my ticket together. 27, a little bit more than yesterday, which was $18. I went 2 deep in here. He's the number 2, Oglala for Ralph Nix, as well as the number 3, Baby Mo out of the Mark Cassie barn. And then I spread from here on out. I thought there were some interesting races. Race 10, I went 3 deep in here. I had to change it. I did like some horses in here, especially American Ninja, who is scratched, the number 10. So I ended up adding the number 7, Bray, in. Race 11's the Musical Romance. We've mentioned it. We both like Sound Machine. I did toss 2 other horses in there, and I had some interest in Our Fantasy, who's 8-1 morning line. That's the 5 out of the Kathleen O'Connell barn. And then to wrap things things up. This is where we differ. I thought this was a very, very tough race. So I went 3 deep in here to make that ticket 27.
Yeah, I mean, that race is wide open. And, you know, like race 11, race 10, I believe it was, had some scratches in there that sort of changed the pace scenario a lot in that race. So, like you said, you had to jump back and add a horse. I had to add 2, actually. Lost my first and second choices in there. But let's go back to this 9th race, about 7.5, as I mentioned, for these state breds on the grass this afternoon. And you started it off, and I did, with Ogala, I think it's pronounced, cutting back to 7.5 after shaking off that poor start to Duel early. Got the lead before she was beaten the neck. It was a good performance. Ralph Nix, excellent when horses making their second start. Hey, Edgard better have a good day today.
He could have a really big day. He could be like Paco when you needed him last week with about 5 horses on top. I think this one just really woke up. I know the numbers don't show that, but it was a huge performance last time out with everything said. First time on the turf, now second time. Seems to be training well since then. And this sort of break, just giving them, you know, the last race was April 2nd. When you look at a month to 2 off, Ralph is really strong with this game. He wins at 20% from a sample size of 132, so it's a common angle for him.
And we both used only 2 horses in the race, and the other horse we used was the number 3, Baby Mo, and this one from the Mark Cassie bond.
Yeah, we have a stat here for Mark Cassie. Did a little bit more digging here because this horse is coming out of a 5 for a long race, now going to 7.5, so going to 2 turns. Sprinter route here on the turf at Gulfstream Park just the past year. 23% of the time his horses find themselves in the winner's circle, 54% in the money for a $2.04 ROI. So I like this horse stretching out, even though last time he weakened in there. It was his first race in a considerable amount of time. So I'm expecting even a better performance now, second time since, when is that? May 2020.
So May 2020, so just about a year. So, you know, the fractions in that race, 21-2, 44-1, and this one was disputing those fractions. I think the stretch out, this horse is going to be a major part of the pace puzzle today, and you're getting a very aggressive rider, and Edwin Gonzalez. The one horse, you know, definitely a half-sister, this one, we're talking about Chica Boom, to 7-time local turf winner Monforte. Break from the rail again, tracked the pace, bumped in the stretch, finished 5th. I think this horse, if you can spread a little bit more, especially if you're using exactas and tries in this race, you got to use this horse on your ticket.
You got to use him. He's got that inside draw, so I'm wondering if they're going to have him forwardly placed again, or I should say she, because 2 starts back she ran pretty well, and then last time out they tried to have her right off the pace, and she just didn't seem as comfortable. So Sammy Camacho might have instructions to just go from that inside post.
Well, let's go to race number 10. 1 mile on the turf. Claim is 4 and up. Non-winners of a race since November 29th. $16,000. We had the scratch of the 4, 9, 10, 11. 13, 14. The number 15 is going to get in and run. And it was just so wide open. I actually like Face of Victory. Not going to run today because I couldn't find any other speed in here. So I lost my first pick. Then I lost Pioneer Man. So I ended up with the number 2, Not So Subtle, who does his best running in the latter stages of the race. You know, he'll be there to reap the spoils if there is some pace he can run at in here. Armando de la Cerda and Edwin Gonzalez. I have a feeling they're going to put this horse closer to the pace because they're going to have to.
They're going to have to. And I also like that Edwin's climbing back aboard. You might look at the record here at Gulfstream Park, and you may want to look another direction. But that was a huge performance last time out, and he was slow to break out of the gate. So he's going to need a good break, and he's going to need to have some early foot. But I agree. I mean, I thought this race was really difficult. I end up using the number 8, Freedom Matters, who has 2 wins locally on the turf course, one of which came last time out with a pretty nice buyer speed figure. But my concern with him is look at the record. 27 starts in the career, 3 wins, and 10 second-place finishes. So I'm using a horse that typically likes to just get a piece, but not necessarily get the job done.
Yeah, and the number 5, who you have highly rated, along with me, who have it in 3rd, is dropping to the 16 level in these dated claimers. Took the overland route. Wasn't bad last time out 3rd against those 35 condition claimers. Sure wish there was more speed in this race for these horses.
Yeah, I really hope so, too. It's actually interesting. You know, I always talk about Farley, the horse to the outside. I think he might be involved early because he's been closer than a lot of these horses. I mean, Timmy M to his inside, he's another one. He likes to close from off the pace, but Chantal gave him a pretty nice trip last time out at 42-1. So we'll see if this one can do 3rd time off the layoff. That's why I used him underneath.
Well, feature race is the 11th race, 6 1/2 furlongs. These are Florida bred fillies advanced 3-year-olds and up $75,000. The musical romance. We've tipped our hand by telling you, both of us, that we like the number 2 horse today, Sound Machine. Let's go back and look at this horse's last race. You're going to see this one turning for home, and number 5 that day, and that was Sound Machine. And just really had nowhere to go. You know, you could see just looking for that racing room and just really couldn't get anything going. You could see just trying to duck out and find some kind of racing room. And basically, that was the story all through the stretch last time out. And I thought that this horse had gotten through earlier on, would have run well, was the even money favorite that afternoon. And I think this horse is going to come back run. She was second, 2 starts back in the Hurricane Birdie.
Yeah, the Hurricane Birdie was a great race from her. Pacific Gale ended up being winless, I think, since 2019, and then has gone on to win 2 graded stakes and a 3rd place in a graded stake this year. So I think she had a big competitor. And then last time out, you mentioned the traffic. I mean, you kind of lose a horse's best momentum when you get yourself in that situation. So still a good performance from her. I've already said this. I'll say it again. 9-2 would be a gift. I don't think we're going to get one here. I think we're going to be bet down from the morning line.
Yeah, especially with the scratch of the 1 in there and the number 4 Royal Megan and the 1 a bit of both. Now, I want to hear about the 5 horse. I know you have some interest in. It's 8-1 on the morning line. 4 Kathleen O'Connor with Luca Panici in the saddle.
3 for 3 this year. I mean, pretty nice races. Has been on the step up in each of them. They've been going a mile, so now it's going to cut back to that 6.5 furlong distance. But, you know, the other thing I mentioned is when you see a win streak, I want to see somewhat that the filly's getting better with each of those starts. And I thought last time out an 81 buyer would at least put her in the hunt here for a minor share. She's been very consistent. Her only poor efforts, they've really been on the turf, so they've really figured it out. She needs to race on the dirt, and her record here, I've mentioned, she's been on a win streak, but she's been very strong here overall over the main track.
And the number 6, Miss Mashak, is going back to the main track, stretching out to 6.5 after following back-to-back sprint victories on the dirt with a duel for the lead 4th. That was in the Golden Beach Handicap. Georgina Sharp, turf to dirt. She's almost 30%. Thought this was a logical one in here for those reasons. That's why I had this one highly rated. I didn't know what to do with the number 10, Harrisol. I really respect the connections. Back from Tampa, hard-knocking mare, 5-time winner locally from 15 starts.
She seems to be training really well. I mean, she has a nice bullet on the 21st, 47 flat, the fastest of 40 workers here locally. And you've mentioned her last couple starts, they've been at Tampa. 2 starts back, she was able to get the win. But last time out, she fell flat. She didn't have any late turn of foot, and I'm not really sure what her excuse was in that occasion. I just think looking at her, she does have some back class, but I could only use her for a minor piece in here. I think, for me, Sound Machine is the horse to beat.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Let's go to race number 12, about 7.5 on the turf. Claimants, fillies, and mares, throwing up. Non-winners of 2 in life. So far, scratched to 14 and 15. Pete will be on in a couple of moments giving you all the updated scratches. I went with a horse I thought was going to run well in here, bounce back, I hope at least, and that's Keitani the 6. Looking to bounce back and sit that trip behind the speed. Followed that maiden victory, which I liked. A late closing 5th at this level and distance last time out for Bobby DeBoner, who claimed her 2 starts back. He's got Sammy Camacho. I'm expecting more speed from this horse this afternoon.
Yeah, she showed it 2 starts back, so you'd think that maybe today she would. And you mentioned Bobby DeBona. He's been doing very well this meet. I feel like I have to look at his horses every single start. When you look at his record right now, 11 for 18 in the money. The barn is doing well. Sammy Camacho, a great rider. I looked at this horse a bit. I went in a different direction. I used the number 8, Aloha Kitten, who's exiting one of those same races where this one finished second. This one's in the Bob Hess Jr. barn, and it was a nice second. It was way better than her other performances as of recent. I think for her, it was getting to this 12-5 level that made the difference.
And the 11, just to touch on it, Lady Cloverly, moves to Peter Walder's barn after the claim Where's Blinkers hopped at the start. Finished second with Edgar Zayas in the saddle. Today you talked about he doesn't ride him much. He's riding him twice today. So maybe that's because Paco's on sitting on a beach somewhere for a couple of days. So we'll see how that is.
Yeah, I used both Peter Walder horses here, the 10 and the 11. I tried to play this mental game. You mentioned Edgar Zayas doesn't ride for Peter a lot. And then Miguel Vasquez, he does ride for Peter a lot. So I gave a slight nod to the horse to the inside, the filly. I thought she ran a nice 3rd last time out behind Aloha Kitten. But I don't know. It's tough to divide these 2 Walder runners apart.
Well, we're up against. Let's go to the lightning round very quickly. We got a couple of interesting things to tell you about in here in the lightning round, and we're going to start it off with, next week will be the Belmont Stakes, and of course you can watch and wager on it right here at beautiful Gulfstream Park. And First Bet puts together a really nice free wagering guide. There you see it. I am actually part of that. Got to put my selections in there, and it's free. You just got to sign up at First Bet, and it's always a good thing. Really, a lot of facts and stories about the horses that are going to be in the Belmont Stakes.
Yeah, there's selections in there. There's also strategies as well from Jeff Siegel and Jeremy Plonk. So it's a good resource. It's free if you sign up. So something to use coming up to Belmont, because I know they're going to have a big, big card next Saturday.
And, you know, the horse that I picked in the Kentucky Derby, who didn't fare that well, is Rock Your World. But, boy, I'm going to go back and show you his recent work. He sizzled 5 furlongs in 58.40 at Belmont. He is going to be in the Belmont Stakes. And that guide you're talking about, you're going to see Rock Your World right on top of my ticket. So I'm going back with Rock Your World, hoping this horse didn't run into Preakness and just got wiped out at the start. And this horse, I thought, ran very well in the Santa Anita Derby. So I'm going to go back with Rock Your World, but just a nice workout.
You mentioned, you know, he had a huge performance in the Santa Anita Derby, and then to have happen what happened in the Derby, it's also tough when you have such a big field. So, you know, when you see workouts like this, there's definitely eye-catching.
Well, talking about workouts, let's check Hot Rod Charlie, who's been a very interesting story. He worked at Santa Anita in a minute .40. And, you know, this one third in the Kentucky Derby, but the jockey decided that we rode Rombauer in the Preakness to go right here and ride back Hot Rod Charlie, who he's on for third. So that was Flavin Pratt. So just following musical jockeys with this one.
Yeah, interesting to win the Preakness, you know, get the second leg of the Triple Crown and then switch horses. But this horse ran a huge race in the Kentucky Derby, another one that seems to be doing well now. So, you know, you have to respect Flavian, too. He's had 2 great horses to pick from, and maybe he thinks this one's a little bit better.
I had a lot of people ask me, hey, where's Edgar Prado been? So he is back, and he'll be riding. You know, as I said, he's got a horse earlier today. You know, sorry he had to go back to Peru. His dad passed, but he is back, and he's just a really nice guy, and he's got 7,097 victories.
Yeah, he's such a nice guy. It's terrible news to, you know, have to share, but we're glad to have him back here at Gulfstream Park. And actually, I think one of the first times I asked a jockey for an autograph as a kid, it was Edgar Prado.
There you go. I still have his one of the first copies of Barbaro, the book that he actually co-authored. So I think that's signed too. I don't know where it is, but I can dig it up. And you know, as we mention all the time, the best thing about this is that Gulfstream Park is now open to the public, no admission, free admission. So we'll see how this you know, comes out, and it's great to see fans back here again.
It is great. Just to see them yesterday outside the walking ring, I think is huge. We don't have those hedges anymore, so if you're dining outside at, you know, Yard House or Christine Lee's, you can still kind of see the horses in the walking ring. But it's great to be able to come to the track and enjoy it. You can sit on the apron at one of our tables or in the Breezeway bar. There's lots of options, so I'm glad to have fans back too.
It certainly is. So let's turn it over to Pete Aiello now, because he's got lots of changes. I should say, I'm trying to say scratch and change at the same time. Let's go to Pete. He'll do much better.